This is Ben Pearson from SlashFilm.com. I interviewed Matt Aitken, Weta Digital's visual effects supervisor, about the work he and his team did on the final battle in Avengers Endgame. I thought it'd be cool to put together a sort of mini commentary track where he breaks down and explains some of that scene's coolest moments in his own words. Enjoy.
It's interesting, with this one, the environment underwent a big change after the plates for the battle were filmed. So the end battle was largely filmed in a block of additional photography, which ran from September to October last year up in Pinewood, Atlanta studios in Georgia. And we have the Avengers compound, which is on the banks of the Hudson River in upstate New York with woods around it. And so the environment would be a combination of kind of destroyed built environment with certainly dirt and a lot of rubble and building elements, but also some busted trees and tree stumps and burnt out trees. But when it was all cut together and assembled in a rough cut with previs, those tree stumps that they dressed the sets with became a bit more prevalent than they had anticipated and wanted the scene to look like, because it sort of read more like they were fighting in the ruins of a bombed out forest rather than the ruins of a bombed out Avengers compound. So for the majority of the sequences, we actually ended up rotoing the characters off the environment and replacing the environment with a fully CG bombed out crater. But that's great because we get control over the art direction, if you like, of the environment of the crater. That way we can take more of a creative lead on the way the lighting and the environment plays out. So we're subtly modulating the lighting all the way through the fight, and that's in response to how you can kind of tell the sway of the battle is moving from side to side. So initially, once Thanos has used his 8-ship to destroy the compound, it's really dark, and when our three heroes, almost out of desperation, to take on Thanos, that fight's in a very dark, clouded over environment. Then the portals open and all our heroes turn up, and we allowed things to get lighter at that stage, and so there's a sort of like an optimism that's allowed to play through the scene. And then Thanos gets his army involved, and as the fight progresses, it looks more and more like he's going to win, he's going to dominate. Like, he uses the 8-ship to strafe the whole battlefield indiscriminately, just destroy his fighters as much as he's destroying our heroes' armies. So things get dark again at that point. And then at the end of the sequence, when we have post-snap Tony, with that scene tragically playing out as it does, we allowed a kind of like a dawn light to break. Even though it's an end, it's sort of like playing as a new beginning as well.
Tell me about the Cap wielding Thor's hammer moment. That's like the biggest audience applause break in the movie, I think, from the times that I've seen it.
Yeah, the fans it's almost like they were anticipating that moment, and we hoped that was going to play as well as it does, because we're a bunch of fans as well. I mean, those were just great fun shots to do. They weren't particularly technically challenging. We had the lightning that we had to work up. We wanted that to look really good. We just knew that was going to be a thing. When you see Mjolnir lifting up off the ground, it's not Thor because he's being dealt to by Thanos. But that shot where we whip Pam with the hammer, we see Cap holding it. Yeah, the crowd goes crazy at that point. We did 3 versions of that shot. We did the one that ended up in the film. There's no lightning on Mjolnir, but we did a little bit of lightning and then a little bit more lightning as well. And we just presented them to the filmmakers, and they were editorially able to play around with which one they went with. The Women of Marvel beat, when those women all come together and support Captain Marvel. There's one shot at the start of that where people just keep coming into frame. It's it's beautifully choreographed the way it reveals. They were all there on that day, which is an amazing day to be on set for sure, in terms of the power of the acting presence that was there on that day. Who wasn't there on that day was actually Tom Holland playing Peter Parker. He wasn't able to be there on that day, and Peter Parker needs to hand the gauntlet to Captain Marvel at the start of that shot. So there was a stand-in on set on the day for that, and we picked up a Tom Holland element later on.
What about like that really long shot, the one that ends with Cap saying Avengers Assemble, where it's sort of like you're like going down the line and you've got everybody out with all the portals and stuff. I imagine that had to be, there's so many people in that shot, I imagine that had to be sort of pieced together.
No, they're actually all there.
Really?
They're all there, yeah. Wow. Iron Man, he was there on the day, but he just wasn't going to be in that shot originally. He was still supposed to be like kind of pulling himself together out in the battlefield somewhere from where Thanos had left him. So we actually added him in, and the Hulk is added in, obviously, but that was the day when everybody was there. There's another example though, which is actually the portal shot of Titan. So we really just see Titan really clearly in one of the portal shots, but it's a key shot because we have Drax and Mantis and Strange, and then we see Quill turn up, and everybody's waiting to see Spidey, because everyone was devastated with Spidey's blip at the end of Infinity War. You know that people are recognising Titan, and they see Strange and Drax and Mantis, and they think, this is potentially where Spidey's going to come. And they see Quill, and they go, oh my god, there's only one person now missing from Titan, and that's Spidey. And then you see him start to web in the background, and the crowd just goes crazy at that point, and it's just amazing. The payoff is huge. But getting everybody together for that one was tricky. So I think we had Drax and Mantis together, we got the two of them. Strange is just necessarily on a different plate because he's floating, so he shot separately on a green screen. Chris Pratt wasn't available on that day, so we picked him up later on with a separate motion control green screen element, and Tom Holland for Spidey had to be another day again. So there's actually 4 different plates for that one shot.
Thanos' army, we see like Chitauri, we see the Outriders, those 4-armed creatures. I think there were some other forces that we hadn't really seen before. Can you tell me about them, and if they had any names that the Russo brothers or Marcus and McFeely gave to you guys?
So there's the Sicarans, and I think we see them first in Guardians 1 on Morag. They're kind of like the ground troops who are trying to stop Quill when he grabs the Power Stone and escapes from Morag. So they're there. We've certainly got the Outriders. The majority of the Outriders this time have actually got 2 legs and 6 arms. So they're actually sort of 8-limbed creatures. And there were a few of those in the Battle of Wakanda in Infinity War and the ILM sequences there. But in terms of upping the ante, most of them were the 8-limbed variety for Endgame. And there's the Chitauri and their chariots, of course, from the Battle of New York, from Avengers. At one point, there were going to be potentially Dark Elves were going to show up. They didn't make an appearance. But the guys who are new are particularly the Chitauri guerrillas. So these are we see Chitauri kind of like leading them out by chains, and then they set them free. So these are kind of not quite King Kong sized, but like, yeah, giant gorilla-ish alien gorilla creatures who are like a formidable force to be reckoned with on the battlefield. We got 2D concept art for those guys, worked them up in CG, and they were great fun to do. Yeah, great fun to fight with, and then great fun to kill off.
How many different locations did you have to create for the interiors of those portals?
I can list them for you. So there's Wakanda, for sure. New Asgard, which is where Thor and Valkyrie have ended up. And we've got Kamatage, so the sorcerers are all coming from Kamatage. We've got Contraxia, which is where the Ravagers come from. We've actually got Ravagers coming through on Sky Cycles also from more like a deep space kind of environment. So we just had one of those classic MCU kind of like gloriously colourful sky and star fields that our matte painting team worked up. And we've got Titan as well in a few shots. So however many that is, 6 or 7 I suppose. It's a very dense filmmaking, and there's little gems in there that I'm not even sure if I should reveal this or not, although the internet has spotted him.
Howard the Duck?
Howard the Duck. Very late in the day, and I think it might have come from Kevin Feige actually. We got the note that it would be great to just, if there was a chance to get Howard the Duck in, there was this one little gap when the Ravagers are coming out of Contraxia where there was room to drop him in, and he wouldn't be too obvious, which is good. That was kind of like the way they wanted to play it. It would involve us essentially building and rigging and shading and prepping, like a Hero Digital character for one tiny little beat. I've counted, he's actually in 18 frames of the film.
Oh wow.
So it's not like a huge presence. So it's a lot of work for a small amount of time, but we were so delighted to be able to do that.
Special thanks to Matt Aitken, and to read the rest of our conversation, visit the link in the description. For much more on Avengers Endgame, Marvel Studios, and tons of other film and TV coverage, check out /film.com. Avengers Endgame is available on digital HD right now and arrives on 4K, Blu-ray, DVD, and on-demand platforms on August 13th, 2019.